Oh gosh, that was so bad. I'm gonna try it again. Hello, everybody. Oh gosh. For those of you wondering what's wrong with me right now, nothing. We just have a fantastic guest, Kellen Goff. That is my terrible attempt at his voice impersonation, my voice impersonation of Fiddlesticks from League of Legends. Kellen is, if you're not familiar, has worked on everything you can imagine. I list off the laundry list of amazing things he's worked on in his like relatively new career, and he's still worked on everything. It just goes to show how good he is. But most notably, League of Legends, JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, Beastars, Attack on Titan, My Hero Academia. He is just so good at what he does, and he is truly becoming a new master of the creature voices. So if you're interested in voice acting and you're interested in doing any type of creature voices, animal voices, sounds, this is an episode to watch with your ears, with your hands over your... Make sure you have the best headphones on as tight as you can, because you can hear the nuance and intricacies as we talk about what he does to create these mind-blowing performances. He is so good at creating these characters, and we talk about how it's not just the voice, it's all the backstory and history that goes into creating what he does. I truly think that this is going to have replay value above any other episode for anybody who is interested in being a voice actor, because there's such a part of this industry that there's a select few people who work as much as he does doing creature voices, because it takes such understanding of your own instrument and your own talents and the dedication to learn and try and explore. So we talk about his, performances in My Hero Academia and him getting the opportunities to play different types of characters, but really the nitty-gritty in terms of his growing up being having high-functioning autism, and how that lent to his ability to fall in love with acting and creating characters, into the nitty-gritty of his performances on characters like Fiddlesticks that require tremendous amounts of fearlessness to be able to put that on tape and trust that it's going to work, and working with directors who will give you the freedom and opportunity to play and try. So stick around on this episode, because it's really going to be fun. You're going to learn a lot. You might want to also try along with us as I embarrass myself to try and do the things that he's doing. So coming up next, Kellen Goff on the Points of Experience podcast. So do you like watching a lot of documentaries and stuff? Is that your preferred medium of
when
content?
I get the time? When I watch a documentary, it's usually either going to be with friends, or it's going to be something about aliens, probably.
So are you excited about this like new information now that we're miraculously and for some reason super interested and excited with the UFO content that's been in front of us for years, but now all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, that it was happening. Yeah, that is true.
I'm cautiously optimistic, just because UFO just means they don't know what or they don't know what it is. It doesn't necessarily mean it's an alien, but it could just as well be something from another country that's lying. So
very true. Or it could be our own country. We'll see what happens
there. Or it could be our own country lying. We did that with the SR-71 Blackbird.
Hey, anything is possible.
That's why Area 51 was around, to test that.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah.
So, Kellen, thank you so much again for doing this show. You were high on the list for us to have for a number of reasons that we'll absolutely get into. For people here who don't know you, which is, again, we had Christina V on the show recently, and I kept butchering this phrase, but I think every project that I've had the pleasure of working on in the voiceover medium, you have also worked on, so it'd be harder for me to name a title. I think so. From going through your things, I think everything I've been lucky enough to work on, you've also worked on in some capacity.
That's crazy.
Just a funny little tangent.
Funny happenstance there.
Yes,
we'll diverge one day.
Yeah, exactly. We have the absolute degree of Kevin Baconness between us because we're like at 99 on the Kevin Bacon meter. Everybody, Kellen Goff, voice actor from Five Nights at Freddy's, My Hero Academia, God of War, Sasaki and Miyano, Lost Ark, Attack on Titan, One Piece, Shin Megami Tensei 5, Demon Slayer, Lost Judgment, Neo: The World Ends With You, which I have just found out, Beastars, Cookie Run Kingdom, Makudama Drive, World of Warcraft, Black Clover, Sword Art Online, The Last of Us, One Punch Man, Seven Deadly Sins, JoJo's Bizarre
The list
Adventure.
goes on. The
It
list goes
on. I won't go down here because I will be
You're making
reading
me
this.
blush.
I'll be reading this for the whole interview. You have been somebody that I have looked at as an inspiration in terms of your absolute capacity and range in this field. Before I even got into doing kind of what I'm doing now, I was
Thank
just,
you.
especially your performance as Fiddlesticks. I remember seeing that, and I remember seeing a video you posted where you were kind of breaking that down, how you did that voice and everything. And I was watching that as like a student. I had my pen out, and I was like, how is he doing this? And I want to talk about all that, and we'll get into all of the juicy stuff. But I like to start early in people's careers so people can get to kind of know and understand, and hopefully in an educational sense, learn from maybe your journey and experience. So can we start from as early as possible, where maybe that's grade school, maybe it's high school, where growing up, what was life like, and where was life like? Where were you? What kind of kid were you?
Yeah, well, I'll start it off by saying I'm high functioning autistic. It's not politically correct anymore to say the actual, the blank syndrome. Because it was named after someone very bad.
Yes.
But I do have that, but I didn't know I had that until much later. So I thought I was just a weird kid. And then before that, I thought I was just having fun. So early
weird kid
on,
in what way, if you don't mind? Why did you think you were a weird kid?
Oh, just because I thought differently than most people, and that sort of segregated me a bit from others. They I don't know if it was whether they were scared of how I thought or they just didn't understand, so they felt it easier to just play with someone else.
Yes.
Regardless, it has helped me immensely in my career, the way that my brain works. My dad will tell you early on I would mimic the TV. I whether it be the early Rugrats or SpongeBob or whatever cartoon, what have you. I was sort of using. I would find out later I was using the TV to figure out what people thought was funny and how to talk to relate with other people a little bit better. But at first I wanted to be a children's book author, and that's what everybody thought I would be because I filled composition book after composition book with drawings and stories inspired by something I saw or even not, and they thought I was just going to keep doing that. But it was always the story part of it that really interested me. And as I grew older, I found different ways to tell a story. I transitioned into animation as YouTube was becoming popular back in the early 2000s. We had a bit of a small community of, before the term machinima was copyrighted as a channel, it was a term coined for doing animation with video games.
Yes.
Red versus you would know Red versus Blue is
Blue,
one
yeah,
of the.
sure.
So my sect did it with Super Smash Brothers, and that's what I did when I was a kid. We just made our own series and sort of worked off each other to. I don't know, maybe make it big one day, but mostly we were just having fun in our spare time. Yeah, it was a ton of fun, and I still know people from those days, but that's what started to get me on the track because with the voices thing before, and I had done some theater in elementary and middle school. I would become one of the go-tos to be the voices of some of these characters. And it would start to be like a guest role spot for everything. I was really grateful. But the more I did it, the more I realized that how impatient I was, because the process of either machinimation or flash animation was just not fast enough for me in those days. I was a kid that wanted to get the stories out as fast as possible, and to be able to do that and collaborate with somebody else and share their world with them, make them happy, make me happy. It was the greatest feeling that I had felt thus far about a future career. So that's when I sort of decided I wanted to be a voice actor. Yeah.
Interesting. So you were doing theater. Obviously, you're watching TV. You're watching. Was it like? Were you watching cartoons and anime and animation? What were like what were some of your favorite shows growing up?
Too many. Codename Kids Next Door, Ben 10, Zatch Bell, Naruto, Dragon Ball Z, pretty much anything where you could make an OC in that universe and it could possibly canonically exist just because the world is that big. I was so into it.
So Cartoon Network basically went on the TV from the second you woke up, and then it ended when Adult Swim was rolling in until you went to sleep, right?
If it wasn't Toonami that night, yeah.
Yeah. Toonami, correct. Yeah.
But even then, sometimes I would sneak up and watch Robot Chicken when nobody was looking. Probably contributed to my child humor nowadays.
It's a great show. It's a great show. What about what about video games? Were you playing a lot of video games when you were a kid? Was that part of your childhood?
Funnily enough, I was not allowed to play conventional video games until I was 13, and that's only because I had worn down my parents that much, because knowing that I was autistic, but not having grown up with video games themselves, they had no experience with how someone with autism might be stunted by video games. So it was only learning games for me, and most of them were humongous entertainment. That's what I gravitated towards, so like Pajama Sam and Putt and Spy
my favorite.
Fox.
Putt Saves the Zeus. Oh my gosh, those were my favorite.
Those DOS games, they're all on Steam now, and you can get them on your phone as well if and they're like $3 a piece now. I actually played through some of them the other day, and they still hold up for me if you just want something soft to vibe with for a bit, something not killing zombies for a second.
I couldn't agree more. Those were like, for me, I don't know how I got involved with those games. There you go. Pajama Sam. That was like, if they ever made a live action Pajama Sam, I wanted to play him when I was a kid. I loved, like, it was so good, and his flashlight.
Want to hear something crazy?
Please.
You know who Pajama Sam is voiced by?
No.
Bobby Hill.
No way!
Yeah, Pamela Adlon, I believe her name is.
Yeah. Oh, she is fantastic.
Crazy, right? She was in our childhood much before King of the Hill.
Gosh, I mean, King of the Hill, Bobby Hill is one of my favorite all-time characters in shows.
Now you know why.
Yeah. There's the thread is starting to make sense. And to your what you were saying, anybody out there, check out these games, especially if you are looking to have fun and learn. Those were a lot of fun.
They got away with a lot more than they could now. If you go back and play it now, Paul, you might find some adult humor in there.
Oh, really?
That they snuck in, yeah. Especially the first of every one of them. I was playing No Need to Hide When It's Dark Outside, and there was just like it was like the game show host Doors or something. But remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. I forget who it was, but there was something.
Yeah, I mean, that's just like the old Disney innuendos they would have like littered throughout all of these classic children's movies. I guess,
Bingo.
yeah, these animators were just trying to have an outlet for working on probably. They're like, why am I working on
Sure.
this kid's game? I gotta be a little bit of a
I gotta
man
have
here.
fun somehow. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, the 90s were a different time.
they
There
definitely
was
were.
a lot
Definitely.
looser. Yeah.
Yeah. So you weren't playing video games. You were in high school doing theater.
Right.
At what point did you recognize? Okay. Well, I guess even the question is, was it your desire for watching movies and television, like things on TV, that you were like, I want to do that and be a part of whatever the fun that they're having on those screens is, or did you say like, I love animation and I want to be a voice actor? Like, what was the distinguishing factor for you saying, I want to join drama and eventually I want to pursue a career in the entertainment business?
I think it all goes back to recess and just everybody else would play football or handball against a wall or something, but I would be on the jungle gym with a select few, just LARPing. I was LARPing at a young age. I would be the dungeon master and one of the main characters at the same time. Just creating these worlds during recess, and every day we couldn't wait. We would go back to that world and pick up where we left off. And I don't know, maybe subconsciously I just loved the idea of playing in other worlds. Anything that, because when I play a video game, I want to play something that I couldn't do in real life. So if it's like Call of Duty, I'm like, yeah, but I could just go to war, but which I wouldn't do. I wouldn't want to do, but
Yeah.
but like I want to have superpowers or something. It's funner that way.
Yeah.
But it was a combination of that, and I love theater. I loved musical theater best of all. I loved and I idolized a lot of voice actors from a young age, and especially the ones who could do the creature stuff.
I have to assume
Because
D. Bradley Baker's on that list
Yep,
somewhere for you, because you
top
remind
hero.
me of him so much. Oh, you're
Oh,
top.
thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, tops. That he was the reason I wanted to do all this. Frank Welker and Tadashore are up there as well.
Oh, yeah.
The greats. But yeah, I admired that somebody could do what I was doing, and maybe more to the point, be that weird and get adored for it instead of scorned like I was. So that I sort of saw that as the end goal, because I wanted to. I felt like it was if I had this and that was a way to be praised for it and make a living with it, I felt like that would be the end for me,
I still don't understand why they pay us to do any of this stuff. It seems ridiculous. Like, I mean, trust me. Listen, we're at a time right now. We're all trying to fight for good pay for everybody and stuff.
Sure,
And trust me, let's all
sure.
get paid. But the idea, same with like sports, that these people are making millions and billions of dollars to play games.
Playing a game?
It's crazy.
Crazy, right?
It's and trust me, I'm very, very lucky, and I think that the impact that we have on, because probably similar to you, I grew up like the television for me was a little bit of a second parent in a way, where I was learning all of my wants, my needs, my stories through video games or TV. I was finding my friends through the same mediums.
Yeah.
It was magical.
You even learn mannerisms by just this funny stuff that happens on TV. You learn your sense of humor, what makes you laugh, what makes you cry. We are a different generation, that's for sure.
I think even more so as you get older too, the things that you wind up bonding the most over are like, what TV are you watching? What characters do you like? I feel like that becomes a way of creating kinship between peers and stuff. The same way that like, do you like this sport becomes a thing. So it's a real bonding mechanism too.
Because the reason that you could like a show could be a window into your personality, and if you would vibe with someone. Like, if you like Punisher for the wrong reasons, okay, maybe that's a red flag. But if you like Punisher because he's part of the bigger Marvel universe and he fights bigotry, then hey, look at you. Okay, I could vibe with you.
So let's see. Let's play the game right now between me and you. When you were a kid, who was like the character or show, like specifically character? Because I could think of a billion of shows. Who would be like the person who like that was my person, that was my character? Who is that for you?
Oh, the one that I would base everything off of,
or like you have to have every action figure, or you had to like watch every show. Like what was who was the number one?
Well, that was Ben 10.
Ben 10.
And I did like Ben as a character, but it's even more so the Omnitrix. I love that concept that like a DNA alterer to turn into aliens. That was like everything I loved in a little watch. And same thing with Kids Next Door. I loved the engineering of the technology they use. So it's funny. I don't know if I related completely to a person. I think if it had some kind of sick technology, then that's what I was about.
Well, I mean, we already talked about aliens, and you're talking about Ben 10. I'm already seeing the emotional link probably between like
the web.
Yeah. we've already talked about those two things.
Guilty.
So.
Yeah, no, I love me some superpowers, and I love me some supernatural.
Awesome. I mean, as did I growing up. I mean, love those things, and I love things like mine were probably between the X-Men animated series. Loved that, but I also loved like Dexter's Laboratory.
Oh sure, yeah.
I really love, and like Naruto. Obviously, I love these obnoxious characters, and I've turned into being this obnoxious adult now, which tracks for me as well.
Yeah, the loud obnoxious ones. It always made me laugh, like Cheese and Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Always made me laugh. Yeah, there were some that didn't hit for me, like Fred Burger, but
sure,
it takes a very specific, I don't know, a very specific kind of annoying to make me laugh. I think it's the timing of it all.
Oh, it's all in the timing. It is all in the timing. I mean, that's the comedy of it, because if not, it's just annoying.
Yeah, and heck, that brings it back to voice actors. If Candy Milo's performance hadn't been as hilarious as it was for Cheese, I might not have liked him as much. But to this day, I can still make my sister laugh by saying, "I'm a cowboy. Here's my horse."
And it's just like with SpongeBob. Like on paper, you read that character, he is extremely obnoxious and annoying. But the combination of everything, between his relationships and the timing,
so witty.
It's so well written. I mean, that's kind of the perfect marriage of our industry is really good writing with really good actors. Who bring the characters to life.
And it was also that good because it's a storyboard-driven show,
and animated.
So they were playing to the expressions that the artists had drawn. The voice actors were,
yes,
which is pretty. It reminds me of anime in a way, but
right?
A bit freer.
Yeah. I've done a handful of projects where you've had either storyboards or like rough animatics where there's nothing just in place, that they've got the stop motion in a way.
Yeah, like 3D prelay kind of deal, pre-viz.
Yes, which is it's like a more freeing version of anime. And for those of you who are new to the voice acting industry, prelay is when you are recording in a studio with some other actors oftentimes, or it could be just yourself before any animation is done. Oftentimes they're animating to your performance. For those of you who may not know that.
So like any cartoon that, like Dexter's Lab was prelay, SpongeBob's prelay, Jimmy Neutron's prelay. Yeah. Jimmy Neutron's another big one for me, by the way.
Same. So you like these really smart... I take you for a really smart guy. I don't know you obviously personally, but I feel like you're a really smart... And on the flip side of that, you're also really, really talented. And I guess I'm understanding from, having the intelligence to be able to understand what makes things funny or what makes things work in a character and a script probably really helped you in doing this getting into this
Sure.
business. So where you're doing theater in high school. Quickly, what were your? Do you have any brothers and sisters? What did your parents do?
Just the one sister,
Uh
little
huh.
sister, 3 years younger than me. Now she is looking to get into child psychology, which is probably it might be inspired by me because growing up with an autistic brother isn't a walk in the park. But I love her and I've apologized several times over. And then my dad is an entertainment lawyer and an executive producer now. He does deals for the kind of stuff that we do, the contracts and stuff.
Oh,
He'll
amazing.
represent people. He represents me. He is the one who sort of started me down the showbiz path. He said, this is possible. And I'm so grateful to have had him for a dad because he's always been my biggest fan and he's always been he says, if you sure this is what you want to do, I can absolutely be behind you 100%. You just got to put in the work. So I put in the work.
That's amazing, and that's
Yeah,
such a big part of it too. To make sure that that's the key thing people really hear is you have to put in the work one way or another.
absolutely.
And I
My
think
mom taught me that too. She said it wasn't going to be normal for me. I didn't know what she meant, but she supported me every step of the way against parents who were, they were afraid, so their thoughts turned to bigotry, to keeping their children away from me.
mm,
But she said, "Don't mind them. They're ignorant, and you have so much to offer. You just got to keep trying."
and I'm
So
so
yeah,
glad you did because you have blessed us with many, many, many talented performances that
thank you,
have definitely shaped me as a performer as well. So, what for you
thank you.
was one of those first performances that how? All right, before we get to the well, maybe actually the performance probably came first. What was like the first thing you wound up being able to do professionally, and how did you come to get that opportunity?
Hmm. Um. Well, the first thing I was paid for was this mobile app called Devolution, which I was just like, every level you de-evolve humanity further and further. So like the first level, it's a whack-a-mole type of thing, but the
Ah,
first level is scientists. And then the next level was hillbillies, and that's what I was. Um, so that was it was so early on that I feel like if I went back to it would look prenatal to me. Just because I've learned so much about the acting side of it since.
hmm,
Um, but the first big thing I ever did was probably Funtime Freddy
yeah.
for Five Nights at Freddy's. That sort of lifted me off the ground a bit.
And how did that opportunity come to be presented to you?
Well, after I'll continue where I left off because it's not too far between those 2 points.
Okay.
But after I had started, after I knew I wanted to be a voice actor, I continued doing theater and improv and everything. I was on my school's comedy sports team, which I don't know if you know, but it's like Whose Line Is It Anyway as a team sport. It was a lot of fun.
They called that, oh, what was it called in my school? It was called like something Odyssey of the Mind. I think
Interesting.
yeah, they called it that, which was I think the same idea. Maybe different, but
Sure.
I believe it was that.
We called it comedy sports, potato potato. But that would help me a lot to sort of get past the thinking and into the feeling, which was always tough for me. And what really pushed me over was when I was 16, my dad uh, reached out to Bob Bergen because he teaches his classes, and put me on the phone with Bob, and we talked for a bit, and Bob said that I sounded just like him at that age. So I got to be the first minor in his classes, and he twisted everything on its side for me. He showed me exactly what I was doing wrong, nurtured what I was doing right, taught me my first creature stuff, actually, how to do it how to do it properly, I'd say.
Bob Bergen, voice of Porky Pig, amongst many
Correct.
other things for anybody who's interested. Go on.
So, yeah, for sure. So, and if you want to get into VO, his class is invaluable.
Quick side note. Sorry,
Yes.
I had the similar situation to you. When I was living in New York still before I moved to LA. I remember reading on Bob Bergen's website. I don't know if it's still there. I remember him how he was it Casey Kasem or was it
Was it Mel Blanc?
Mel Blanc. Oh, yeah, it was Mel Blanc, because the story is he wound up pretending to be like his assistant or producer or something like that, and he wound up going to his session. Anyway, and he called him up on the phone. So I remember I wound up doing the same thing, and I called Bob Bergen. Or I emailed him or something like that. I wound up having a conversation with him very early in my career before I was even doing any of this stuff. And I sent him my demo reel, and he was so kind and told me, like, listen, you recorded this on, I don't even know what you recorded this on, your Home Alone walkie-talkie or something like that. But you have a passion here, and it seems, and a talent. Like I guess the characters were good. And I really appreciated that. And you're sparking a memory for me. I have to communicate the thanks that I'm actually doing this now professionally after having done that. It's so funny. Gosh.
Yeah, no, he it's penultimate to him to encourage the youth, because we're going to pick this up when whoever is gone.
Yeah.
But no, he's invaluable, and his advice was life changing.
Yeah.
And I was sure to tell him so. But that's crazy that you reached out to him as well.
Yeah.
No, he seems to have a hand in a lot of our peanut butter. But I'm very grateful for it. But anyway.
Yeah.
After learning what I learned from him, and then Richard Horvitz, and then Charlie Adler, I would go on to do a lot of private training with him, David Sobolov, Debbie Derryberry, so on. I just studied as much as I can, and I just wanted to learn as much as possible to make it into something. All the while, auditioning online for stuff and making friends who wanted to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Finding my tribe, as it were.
What were some of the things you were doing? Just a quick interjection.
Sure.
Were some of the things you were doing obviously you're doing the classes, which I recommend to everybody, and it's kind of like when you look at the people who become successful in this industry, there's often a similar thread, often for people who, aren't blessed with the one thing right out of the gate that leads them to a billion other things.
Right.
Is the training, the foundation. It's all kind of like the same usual suspects, the Charlie Adwards, the Richard Horvitz, the Bob Bergens, Debbie Derryberry, everybody you just mentioned. Like, these people offer classes online. And if you have, I think some of them have a vetting process, but if you're interested, pursue these teachers. Some of them have waiting lists, but you got to get on them if you want to, eventually train with them.
You gotta not take no for an answer forever. Now, that can be taken a lot of ways, but what I would say is you can't, when someone tells you no, you gotta just keep trying in this business. Wait in the lines. If an audition doesn't work out, get back up, dust yourself off. If the class doesn't happen that time, then just try and fill your time with stuff that's productive to what you want to do.
Yeah.
But thanks to all of what I had learned there and the friends I had made, one friend had sent me the audition. And I didn't know what the character was at first. It just said costumed entertainer, and it said someone that your kids would love, but you wouldn't want to leave your kids alone with. So I did 2 takes. I did what you hear, and I did something akin to the medic in Team Fortress 2.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was lucky enough to be chosen for that first take, and I did know that it was Scott Cawthon, so I knew it was going to be something.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was going to be Five Nights at Freddy's because it had never had voice acting before. Maybe it was starting a new project, as people do when they're introducing a really new feature for the first time.
Yeah.
Like voice acting. But yeah, the trailer came out maybe 2 or 3 weeks before the release, and I sort of pieced together who I was from that first teaser.
So you had information to work off of a little bit.
I did, and I also knew the clock was ticking. Soon people might, or at least might. There was a chance that people might start to know who I am. So I was quick to get my demos redone, to redo my site, and to I sort of crafted an image of myself that I wanted people to associate with me. My friend drew a little cartoon version of me in the clothes that, if I wanted people to associate me with,
Uh-huh. So with Five Nights at Freddy's, you've done how many characters for that series now? Because it's been a bunch, and it's
Now?
a wonderful series, by the way. Terrifyingly fun and scary at the same time. And it sounds like from your performance, you're bearing it all there and just having so much fun doing it in as a fun creepy way as possible. If that makes sense.
I didn't want to hold anything back. If I was going to shoot my shot with Scott Cawthon, I wanted to show him what I could do.
Yeah.
So yeah, now I have done him, Walton, 6 or 7 now.
Wow.
And it's all because of the fans. I'm infinitely grateful, but they keep loving me as these characters, and so Scott takes their reactions very much to heart and mind, and keeps bringing me back, and I am just so grateful.
When are you guys going to team up to do an escape room Five Nights at Freddy's themed? Because I feel like that would be the funnest, terrifying thing ever.
That's brilliant. I wish I had any say with Scott, but his creative processes are fully his own. He is 100% behind everything, and if all I can really do is suggest things.
Yeah.
But there was a horror maze once in Las Vegas that had a bunch of it was Five Nights at Freddy's themed, and it had like animatronics everywhere and everything.
What?
But that was a pop-up, and it was only for about 3 months maybe, but it was a while back.
I would have loved that.
Yeah.
I'm a huge horror fan too, just as a tidbit.
Oh, word.
Yeah, I love it.
Hence the love for fiddlesticks.
Yeah. Well, that's coming up pretty soon. The one question I want to ask before we creep our way to kind of the really, really cool stuff for me is, so you're making your brand or your image, you're making your website, putting your demos together. Obviously, these are things I suggest to people too once you are ready and you can afford to do so. How did those things, at what point did working with an agency come into play? When did that connection happen?
You know what's funny? It didn't come into play for a while, because the way that agencies are now, I mean, now, I'm not sure, but when I was trying to get into them, you had to have, like, credits behind you before they would consider you. And, I was in boutique agencies before, but they never really landed me anything. I was just bringing the jobs that I found online to them. So after a while, I kept having meetings and I kept getting rejected, but I didn't give up.
Yeah.
The first agency that I was really booking stuff through was Dean Pinero.
My agent.
Yeah, he took a chance on me. and I'm very grateful to have been with him as long as I was. But you know, things happen, and you realize that you know, not every puzzle piece is going to fit.
Absolutely.
So I would eventually, actually during the pandemic, switch over to Atlas Talent, which has been
Great people as well.
my home since.
Yeah. Atlas, and they
Fantastic.
one of the best, if not the best, VO agency out here in Los Angeles and New York. They're really, really great people there, and I only hear wonderful, wonderful things. So
They're great.
yeah.
They're fantastic. But I would say, you know, agents are they are. When if you're running a race, you'll want to build up your muscles before you put on the speed boosters, right?
I like that analogy. It's very true. You want to be prepared and not just like get thrown into the fray before you before you even understand
before your time, because first impressions are paramount out here.
Yes.
Make one wrong move and you might be on a blacklist for some dumb reason for years.
Yeah.
Just because of a misunderstanding. But if you can absolutely put your best foot forward if you make sure you're practiced and ready before you take the big steps.
Yes.
You know?
I think that's tremendous advice, and
it's the same idea as grinding your Pokemon way higher than the next gym leader's level, you know?
Can we please offer from going forward, all of our advice should just be character video game analogies for people.
I love analogies, man. It explains ways that I am not eloquent enough to explain.
Yeah, no, me too.
Yeah.
So that's Five Nights at Freddy's, tremendous success. It becomes like this cult following game. How soon after that, and is this the next opportunity where the next biggest thing, where is that League of Legends? Is that where Fiddlesticks kind of comes and creeps up and with some other things along the way, or what happens right between those two things happening?
Between those two, Overhaul happened, actually.
That happened first. Oh gosh.
That happened, that happened before. Overhaul and Diablo actually happened before Fiddlesticks.
You know what's so weird? On your IMDb, the way it's listed, because of the way League of Legends is listed, it says you must have done Fiddlesticks when you were like 10 years old or something. It says, because there's like
see that's the year, but people have to realize that the year next to the title is when it first came out.
Yeah, no.
Not when my character came out. Unfortunately, there's no way to elaborate that on IMDb yet.
Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah, but if let's see here, if IMDb had its way, then my first job would have been when I was...
Can you pop that up for us? Let's get Kellen's IMDb up here for a second.
When I was 4.
Yeah, I was like, wait a second, what is this? Because I remember reading and I'm trying to like put the timeline in for myself here, and I was like, wait a second. And I'm like, are you just secretly really old right now? And Wikipedia's got your birth date as being like whenever it is.
Only with my references and language.
All right, let's scroll down to the bottom here. I just want to see what we've got. What is the first one we're looking at here? It's so tiny. Look at the list. This is like it's like a CVS receipt, man.
I just want to fill every day with something. You know?
So okay, that is what you said. What is it? Where was that? That's no.
So, funnily enough, that I was not in whatever video game that is. With IMDb, it's much like Wikipedia, where you can just say whatever you want and can't really edit it that well. But I was in Maple Story as Melange, so that came out in 03.
Wow.
But I didn't voice it in 03. I would say the first thing where I actually did it when it came out would probably be the World Ending, which was a short with with one of my friends. I believe he goes by Atrox, Javier Aloa, but he was one of my animation friends back in the day, and we did a few shorts together.
Don't believe everything you read on the internet, folks. Don't believe everything you read on the internet. Okay, so
do your research.
Yeah, dig a little deeper than I did. Clearly, no.
You're good, man.
So okay, so Overhaul, because this is. I wound up finding out about My Hero Academia as a huge fan, probably after the first or second season, because Overhaul comes in at the second season, correct? He's not introduced in the first season, or 3?
End of 3, actually.
End of 3, okay.
End of 3, big bad of 4, at least the first half of 4.
And what was that? What was that? So if that was like the first biggest thing on the scene, what was that feeling like, and what was that process of getting that audition? Like, how did that all come about and manifest in you for life?
For sure. So after Funtime Freddy, I discovered... Well, I had known about conventions before, but I discovered that I could be a guest at them now, which was crazy to me.
Yeah.
Because I just liked going to conventions to go to conventions. But, sure enough, I was invited with the rest of the sister location cast to SAC Anime 2016, and I after that, it wouldn't be there, but it would be in 2017 it was either Anime Week in Atlanta or Florida SuperCon 2017. I would be on a video game voices panel with Josh Greeley, Armin in Attack on Titan.
Oh.
Josh Petersdorf, brother from another mother. He did Optimus with me at the Universal theme parks when I was there. But he's Roadhog in Overwatch. And Colleen Clickenbeard, who's Luffy in One Piece, but is also Momo and the director of My Hero Academia.
Yes.
And I feel like we hit it off during that panel, because I had never met her before that point, but we played off of each other pretty good, and we wanted to keep in touch, so she asked me to give her my email. So I wouldn't hear back until a year later, when, funnily enough, I had just come back from this convention called Dragon Con with awful con crud that turned into bronchitis.
Oh.
Yeah, it was terrible. But that just happened to be when the animation or when the auditions showed up for Overhaul. So I just had to power through it. It would end up being a bit raspy because that's all I could pump out in 6 hours. I could pump out 4 raspy lines that didn't sound quite sick, because I was on the mend at that point.
Yeah.
I wasn't full on bronchitis, thank God, but I guess Colleen liked the tone or the raspiness or whatever. But I just find it so funny that being sick is what booked me Overhaul.
That's so crazy, and it's such a great character. He's not your typical a villain in a way.
Shonen villain, not really.
He's not really your typical villain, and spoilers for anybody here who hasn't this far.
It's been years.
Like years. But like you wind up start seeing like I think it's between the League of Villains and him when they have that kind of mutual agreement to kind of work together and stuff. It's like it's almost like you don't really know who. And then, because also in the beginning, there's that whole what's the villain's name at the beginning that they're all trying to kill?
Shigaraki?
No.
All for one?
What's his name? The dude, like the first main guy who's like, the heroes are the bad people, and we should all Stain. Yeah, because so it kind of like it's almost like The Boys in a way where it's like who is the real bad people? Like you start empathizing with these villains, and I think your performance as Overhaul, you really kind of. You bring a lot of humanity to and softness in a way to his performance, and it's so good. It's one of those characters where I know you are so talented as a person who manipulates their voice, and they're able to do such creatures, but he's relatively close to where you live normally, and
not too far off. He's just a bit soft. He's a bit softer and a bit a bit more in the vocal fry.
Yes,
Place.
but it's so good. But that's where I think your acting really has a moment to shine, because oftentimes I think people hear the theatrics of a crazy voice like Fiddlesticks,
Sure.
and they're just like, wow, that's like, I can't even comprehend how that's being done. Like they don't even see the intricacies and the choices that you're making. But it's a lot easier to see the nuance when a character is kind of closer to home, more normal
Right
for
on.
people to read. And I saw that with Overhaul, and that show just has such a company of fantastic performances where it's
Agreed.
such a compliment for everybody working on it, and you're just so good for that part.
Thank you. I think that can be attributed a lot to Colleen, because there's some stuff I wanted to do in the moment that might have been stupid and grandiose and not the character, but I feel like Overhaul is just as much hers as it is mine, because she sort of kept me on track, but we did collaborate with it. I love a director who's willing to collaborate, not just dictate.
Yes.
Collaborate. But yeah, he doesn't. No villain really believes they're the villain unless they're like a comic book villain.
Yes.
They all believe they're doing what's right. If he just thought that powers were a plague, because it stems from because the disease came from rats, so he thought it was a plague. But it's way more complicated than I make it out to be with that sentence.
Sure.
He just wants to bring everything back to the way it used to be. And his story at the root of it is just the story of a beaten down, lost child trying to make things up, to trying to repay his adoptive father for saving him from childhood homelessness. And he goes way too far with it, but that goes deeper into his mental health, I believe.
Some might say.
But at the heart of it, I believe he is strictly eye for an eye in his morals. He never really did anything save for Aerie. That's really inexcusable, but he believed the means justified the ends, or the ends justified the means,
sure.
Excuse me. And that, eye for an eye. That's why he stopped in the beginning when both of their sides had lost a member.
Yeah.
Because he just wants to pay stuff back. He's all about payback.
Yeah.
And it's so deeply rooted that he lost sight of humanity, I believe, in the end.
You know what I want to point out right now, which is going to sound so stupid, but it's, I think, a nice teachable moment here. The fact that you, and I'm making an assumption here, the fact that you can so eloquently kind of speak on his mental thought process, I think, really goes to show why you have such nuance and understanding of the character, and that translates into the performance. I truly mean that. I'm not trying to huff puff that, because that's, I think, what separates.
I appreciate it.
That's what separates a good performance from something that just kind of sounds like
that's just a voice.
Yeah, just a voice. And I think we've historically in the anime world, we've seen a lot of that happen. But the ante has been upped so high thanks to performances like yours, where it's so nuanced. It's almost like you're watching a theater drama that is performed, and it's so hard to work under these conditions, and I mean that from a time standpoint and the availability of information. So the fact that we have people like you who can tap in like that and start making those choices and do their homework before they get into the session, it makes it so
absolutely.
Crisp.
Every time you have to do your homework every time. And at least for me, that's just the way I like to learn. I love to learn about what makes a human do the things they do, feel the way they feel.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to have been introduced at the end of season 3 with such a gap between then and when I started to record for season 4 that I sort of filled not every free moment, but many free moments studying Chisaki's mannerisms, why he did what he did, delving into his past, making assumptions of my own to properly tell the story of what is really Deku's first solo villain.
Yeah.
I wanted to do that. I always want to do something justice if people, pour so much of their love into a character. And I saw the love for Overhaul, and I wanted to understand why people loved him. And I think at the root of it, they saw just how complex the situation was. That he wasn't completely awful under the surface. He was just so misguided and put his chips on the wrong feelings to feel.
Yeah.
I think.
Hey, voice actors, just wanted to take a quick second from this episode to let you know about an amazing opportunity we have for Points of Experience listeners. We've teamed up with voice123.com to get you all 15% off their premium membership starting with the $3.95 tier. Now, they also offer a free membership where you can check it out and see what they're about. But with the paid memberships, you're going to get access to more auditions, you're going to get your auditions faster, you're going to get better support, you can upload more samples. All of that is going to be available with the paid memberships. I've used it before in my career, and I've curated my own client list that I've still worked with today. I started making money. It's also a great opportunity for you to take a portfolio of this paid work and present it to agents or managers and say, hey, look, I'm professional, I'm bookable, I've made money doing this, and here are the jobs that I did it on in TV, radio, commercial, video games, animation. They have it all at Voice123. So go to voice123.com/plans/POX, and you're going to get 15% off their paid memberships if you are a first-time premium package buyer or looking to upgrade into a higher tier that you've never purchased before. I promise you, it's a great place to start working, so check it out and start booking today. Well, you did a fantastic job at it, and
Thank you.
It really, I think everybody's happy that they picked the right cast for that, and it goes to make me think listen, I'm going to compliment you a lot here. It's just in my nature. I really appreciate people who do good work, and
I appreciate it.
Before I wound up booking, I did this film called Belle, and I play this dragon beast character, and spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Belle, just close your ears for about 15 seconds. He's also like this innocent boy character, and when I remember reading for it, because they wanted this monstrous beast, I go, there's no way I'm getting this. Kellen's getting this. I remember I was talking with a friend of mine. I don't know if you know Ryan Colt Levy. I was
Love Ryan.
Yeah, he's a good guy. And I was like, dude, there's no way.
Great
I was like, how did I get this? Kellen must have not been available, because I feel like this is someone that. But I learned a lot.
You'd be surprised. It's usually comes down to what the director feels fits best. I have auditioned for many things that people might have asked, what was Kellen not available, but at the end of the day, only the people in charge can really judge who's going to be right for it. And maybe they were tired of me. but no, I think I don't think the monstrousness. I think what you're saying is the monstrousness was not his main thing.
Well, yeah, that's a part of it too. And listen, we all have not to compare here, because that's not the goal of my objective here. It's just that I think when I see you, and this is why, like, moving now into Fiddlesticks area, your ability to create these monstrous characters, and I want to talk a little bit about that in this process, because I just have so many fascinations and questions about this, because so you get that audition. You get the audition, Fiddlesticks, League of Legends character. There was the character already existed in the world, and then they were doing this kind of rework, I believe, to give him a voice and all of that stuff. What
bit scary?
Yeah, a bit scarier too. What was your inspiration? What can you just walk me through that day of auditioning for that, and how that happened?
Sure. So they were kind enough to give an image of the reworked Fiddlesticks, and looking at the two, I knew how different they wanted it. They wrote to death how different they wanted it in the sides. It was like a whole chapter in a book for these for these character specs, but I saw how much in there that they knew the direction they wanted it, but they didn't know what they wanted it to be. So, as with anything, if you don't put something that only you can do into a character, then it's not truly unique. And they wanted something unique here. So I remember trying out a lot of stuff with it, but in the end I just had to submit something because it was getting to the buzzer. So I don't know. I just knew that I wanted to emulate. I wanted to honor that he was a scarecrow at the inspiration. So I thought rusty gates. I thought birds. I thought all of the animals that he might have heard being slaughtered in the barn next to him. All these gruesome things that this scarecrow might have been privy to, because this is not anything of this earth. This is a demon mimicking speech, and this is a demon mimicking sounds with no vocal cords. So it had to be something that was barely understanding what it heard, just picking out the sounds that it favored. And I think that's where the unsettlingness of it comes from, is that you have no clue exactly what Fiddlesticks is thinking. He just sort of picks sounds that he's heard to... It's a big fear of the unknown there. It's like if you met an alien for the first time and it's making all these sounds at you and you wonder what it could mean. It's even scarier because this guy's speaking pure English, but he doesn't understand what he's saying. He just knows... All he knows is the emotions and what was happening around him when he heard this stuff. So that is his only clue, his only motivator into what he could say to bring about a certain reaction from someone. And I likened that a lot to how I learned how to talk to people as someone who was autistic, because I had to listen to the stuff around me to see what made people happy or sad, or it was completely different in my mind. My default was so alien. So to learn how to communicate with people, I definitely had to listen. And this guy has done nothing but I feel like he only talks when he needs to talk. He listens for the most part, and that's where the real mystery and terror comes from, is that he is always listening, but you can't make him speak. He will only speak when it's time.
You just blew my mind. And for anybody who's listening here, my mouth. But first of all, if you're listening to this, it might be worth just watching my face go through the journey of hearing Kellen talk about that. My mouth goes from the biggest grin. My eyes are starting to water because hearing you talk about this, it's like that's the stuff that really jives me up. And what might sound like just someone talking and maybe to some people not even making sense if you're not a voice actor, like that leaks into the nuance of what you wind up seeing. Like it might just be in the tiniest of ways in the moments that you can't even articulate, but it really winds up creating this performance. And I would bother you to say the question of if you have advice for people in terms of doing the creature noises, but you have a video on that I think kind of perfectly explains.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would absolutely love people to go to it. If I can just give an example of what I'm saying, if that babble of words was too much for someone.
No.
When he taunts someone, I would liken him less taunting, more like a fishing hook. Like, he has the bait there. He can look. He's the fear demon. He can look into your mind and see what your greatest fear, what your greatest regret. The stuff that actually makes you emotional. Because emotion for these fighters causes them to fight against their better judgment. He wants you to come to him because then he can spring his trap. So he doesn't understand the words he's saying when he says, "Jinx, all your fault." He is mirroring what she's thinking because he knows it'll get that reaction out of her. So he does the least amount of work.
Oh my God,
it's the most direct way to go about it. You come to me.
Yes. Oh my.
He's in control. Help me.
There we go.
See? Annie would be running to find who's saying "help me" because she's heard that before.
So, this is great. In terms of this stuff, did they layer like your voice multiple times over certain things, or were you producing two sounds at once sometimes? Because it sounds like that.
You want to get into the technicality of it?
Please, because I feel like for anybody interested in creature voices, and we talked about D. Bradley Baker before, but I really feel like you are the modern day D. Bradley Baker in terms of your creature voices. Take the compliment, man, because I'm gonna jam it down your throat because it's very true.
I will say I can't do bird sounds for the life of me. Bird whistles.
Well, we can't be perfect, Kellen.
That's the best I can do. But that doesn't sound like a bird. That sounds like a grasshopper. I would say we have different skill sets.
Yes.
I can do things he can't do. Just from experimenting. You always experiment with it. But experimenting is exactly how we found this. Riot is fantastic to voice actors because they will pay full sessions just to explore. I had maybe 2 or 4 exploratory sessions with Fiddlesticks before we actually recorded for the game.
Shout out to Riot.
Shout out to Riot. And because they know how different this character needs to be to make an impact. Mm-hmm. Because everybody loves the old happy scarecrow. If we're going to make it horror, we have to do it right the first time. So thank goodness I had Jared Rosen, the writer for Fiddlesticks, in the room with me, and brilliant horror writer, and we bond over awful horror movies I forget them now, but because it was so long ago. But man, we had a list of just like stinkers that you could watch just because they're campy enough. Like, everybody knows Evil Dead, but not everybody knows. I'm sorry, I can't think of anything at the moment. And then we had our fantastic voice director, Kellen Bogdanov, I believe is how you pronounce it. Who's done video games for such a long time, and I would say is one of the best directors in Hollywood, bar none. He encouraged me, and he pointed me in the right direction. When I was getting too wet, he said drier. He said, you have to make it sound like wind going through the leaves on a dark night with no light, and which is, we were always in agreement about what I should do. We never had arguments about anything. We always said, ooh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. He always let me try one more. He always lets me try one more in any project I have with him. So shout out to Kal-El. Brilliant. But
I worked with Kal-El before. Yeah, he's a great director.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Pert. So in the process of doing it, we tried many different things. We tried straight Dr. Claw. We tried, because when I had the audition and the callback, it was still a grab bag of things. We wanted to narrow it down even more, even though this was a mimicking demon. So we eventually we narrowed it down to just the airy and the windy and the rusty. And I can do that two ways. Thank goodness. It's a very specific character. So the one way is inward. When it's like fear, that sort of ends up around the Adam's apple. And in this flap I got from having my tonsils out at 3, I can play with that. But you wanted it, we ended up, the motivation was for it to sound like someone was talking through choking long after a normal person would have died, you know? So so that was one way, and we sort of would alternate between these two. For some where it was more menacing, he would let me go into the deeper nocturne, you know, the Cave of Wonders type of dealy. But for most of it, it was the stuff that he was mimicking. For lack of a better term, alien, unusual way of speaking that could only come from someone who not only didn't know how to speak the language, but didn't know how to speak language, had only communicated in some other unimaginable way before. So that's why he's so stilted when he says something like, "It's haunting us. It knows where we are." You know, it's breathing in and out while I'm doing the line. Because more than anything, he's just trying to get the words out. He's not trying to have you be comfortable with him or understand. Just a scarecrow. See? Just like that. What I ended up the mental image in my mind was something of a vocoder. A vocoder effect, for those who don't know, is when you take one layer, usually, like if you were going to make Soundwave from Transformers, it would be the human speech and then music below. Through the magic of audio editing, they can make it sound that tone with those consonants.
Yes.
So I was thinking it had to be the ambiance talking, if that makes sense. The weather, the wind talking. So the other way, the outwards, where you said you heard overlay.
Yeah.
That's actually because when I place my voice in a certain way, I think I can split either my wind or my chords, because I don't know if you heard fear. See, there's the upper vocal cords and then the lower wind coming in through it. What's another thing he says of end of man? You know, they're I don't know what's going on in there. I would have to ask an EMT to put it down there, put the pipe down there while I was talking, but I don't know how safe that is.
Oh my God! You know, we have this at this point. This episode will already have come out. We talk with a vocal coach, Mindy Pack, and they are looking to do that type of research where they work with voice actors to see what's going down in there during.
See what's going on when we do that,
because it's also a vocal health thing, and I'm sure you had to practice a lot of it during your sessions.
Yes, and thank goodness for Riot again. It never really hurt. I mean, it would, you know, a regular vocal strain when it comes to battle lines. Yeah. You're going to need that vocal rest, but they were always willing to give me 2 days in between if I needed it. And at certain points for stuff we knew. With fiddlesticks, it doesn't hurt, it dries me out. And it dries out a place that I can't reach with water. Fully anyway. It dries out the tube to my lungs. So it starts to be the equivalent of holding on to a rope while you're going down. You'll start to get rope burn. But we were able to pad that and avoid it by doing vocal rest, or by doing 10-minute breaks every 10 or 20 minutes. And they gave me the time for that. And no studio has ever done anything like that for me. So I'm extremely grateful to them for giving me as much time as they did with Fiddlesticks, because most sessions, as you know, they'll have us in and out if they can, as fast as they can be. But with Fiddlesticks, it was clear they wanted to take their time, and money was no object.
That's so important, and as actors, you have to be your own advocate for your own health, because just because you might finish that job, you may not be able to do your next one, and this is your career, your livelihood, and it's up to you to be the first person looking out for yourself, and hopefully the studios and production directors will also be doing that too, but you have to be the final say. I want to ask one more question about Fiddlesticks before, because I want to talk a little bit about Attack on Titan, and then we have some questions for you from our audience and a couple other wrap-up
This
things.
Might be a longer episode.
It's fine.
I'm sorry.
No, listen, and it's so important because I'm learning so much, and I know that means that other people must be too, because you're saying so many good pieces of information, and that's why focusing on these character voices, I'm really, I think people are going to learn a lot here just from. That's why I'm just listening here. I'm just learning so much.
Knowledge should be. I have nothing to hide. I want people to know my secrets, because even if they book it over me, I'm confident that there's enough work for everybody, and I'm confident that if I don't hoard knowledge, then it could help somebody book something that means a lot to somebody else someday.
You sound like a young Bob Bergen as he teaches everybody how to do the Porky Pig thing, but it's the same deal. And that goes to my question here. Good segue. What are the things that you're doing in your free time to discover you can do these things with your voices? How are you coming to find you have this extra flap you can manipulate in your voice, or you can have two frequencies going at the same time? What is a day in the life of Kellen exploring creature voices?
It's a lot of it was done before I started voice acting. A lot of it was just boredom. A lot of it was a whole lot of it was seeing how I could get my mom to be grossed out even more. I would bless my mom for her patience with me. I would try so many things. The first creature thing I could ever do, we called it the dolphin, but I don't know if it really sounds like a dolphin hearing it now. But I was able to play with air in a way, sucking wise, that I could bounce the tip of my tongue off the roof of my mouth to make. And I don't know if I've used it before for VO, because it takes a lot of air and it's not really controllable. But it's definitely the inspiration for the rest of this. The dolphin sounds like see that? See how my tongue was, and I can't hold it for long, but I mean. Now I know that I can segment it to maybe combine it with other parts of my mouth. First segmenting, like, maybe combine it with. I found out also I could. I call it a chitter, but I could make a pocket with the side of my mouth here, and leave just enough room in the hole where the air was coming in to let my lips bounce up and down and make sort of this It starts as it turns into it's not a breathe in. A lot of the stuff I do is it's like sucking on a straw, I would say, but with the side of your mouth.
All right, I'm gonna try.
So
I'm gonna embarrass myself and try here.
Go for it. See, you're breathing. But there are two different at least two different types of sucking that oh man, two different types that I've found. One is, and one is, using your mouth muscles as opposed to your lungs to do the sucking. Because when you suck on a straw, what are you doing? Are you breathing in? No, because then it would go to the lungs.
Yeah.
No, you're breathing into your stomach, and you gotta once you find out how to differentiate the two, that's actually how you learn how to fake burp. You breathe into your stomach as opposed to your lungs to hold a pocket of air. So you go, then you can bust it out whenever you want. You can fake burp too?
I can.
Yeah, hell yeah. So you get it. You get the difference between the two.
Yeah. But it just goes to show the amount of, I mean, from a creature standpoint, or mouth noises, making animal sounds, whatever it is, the amount of control and understanding of your instrument is so paramount. And it's why people like you who have put in the hours, maybe not by choice, maybe by happenstance and accident of being a bored kid doing it, but it's come to create a career for you, which is such a magical thing. And I think it.
I'm so lucky. I wouldn't change it for anything. But it's like any science project. You just combine chemicals until you find something that works, and then you work out that muscle until hone that formula, make it easier and easier for you to achieve the end result, make it sound better. That's what I'm doing now with whistling. I'm trying to figure out how to do it through my teeth. I haven't found the placement yet, but I found higher frequencies that I can do. I can go in and out like, but there's some high frequency that I can't. Yeah, exactly. There. Some people can do it like
I can't do
some
that,
people. Yeah, they're just certain. I just love learning new things that I can do with my body, like the bird call. I didn't know that if you do your hands like this, and if you make sure there's no pocket of air in there, you have to make sure that your hand crosses the indent between your middle and ring finger, and then close it up tight. You have to position your hands in a way with the open thing. Put your top lip on your thumbs, and you can't blow hard. You have to find the frequency. It's like finding a frequency on a radio, but it's like, see, I can't even do it at first. I have to practice first. I'm like, there it is. You hear it? There it is. You hear it? You'll get there, man.
This is all
You're already blowing too hard.
Just that's what I try to do. Is I try to just muscle through everything that I can't do, and see if I can force it to work.
It takes nuance. You can't muscle all of them, just like the side mouth chin.
No, it's so true.
But that's my roundabout way of explaining what goes into my creature research. I just try different things with my mouth and my throat and my outside, inside lips. If I cover my nose, if I uncover it, because you can do, or you can do, what I can do with everybody's throat is shaped differently. Everybody's mouth is shaped differently. You could have a flap that you haven't discovered yet. You just have to play with it a bit more. Just make sure you don't hurt yourself. You only get one set of chords.
Oh, it's so true. Yeah, protect yourselves, and everybody here listening. I mean, please, I hope you have taken notes on all of this stuff. Or this is going to have massive rewatchability here.
The best thing, the best thing I can recommend is listening to animal cries, listening to what they do, and trying your voice inward and outward, making different pockets of air, making different shapes with your mouth to try and see how they sound like that. Because they have different chords, but it's only a matter of putting your mouth in the way that they might have it naturally. You just got to figure out what their natural mouth is.
Yes, YouTube videos of animals. I'm sure you can learn so much. I mean, I've been there myself. I've done my fair share of learning for creature voices, but not nearly to the extent or ability that Kellen has himself.
Mel Blanc spent 2 weeks just on a farm by himself, rolling around with the pigs, the cows, whoever he could, just mimicking them, what they did. I not everybody has a farm to go to, but the power of mimicry is insurmountable in value, because from mimicry comes combination of 2 mimicries or 3 mimicries, taking the cadence of this with the tone of this, with the consonants of this, with the shape of this, and creating something.
Yeah, and that goes for even creating new voices. I mean, they say it all the time. If you can do a bad impression of 3 different people at the same time, that's an original character. That's something that...
Same thing with creatures. If you can do a bad cow noise, it might make a good alien.
Yeah, exactly. And this same work ethic that Kellen is talking about is the same thing that can be applied to like accents and dialects and other forms, the technical forms of voice acting that might become useful for you. Different cadences, just different speech patterns. The amount of practice that you need to kind of put in dedication into learning and understanding yourself is important. And then that's only half of the work, because then you have to do everything that Kellen talked about earlier, which is the understanding of the character, the emotional journey, their wants, their needs, because it just goes to show you how much goes into this that people don't see behind the scenes.
But even that can be researched by mimicry. Picture that you've talked to people. They have stories that can't be written because they're just experienced in real time. You can honor their stories by whatever hardships or victories they've had, by putting, how they look at the world into your characters. Because hell, I'm friends with people who were orphaned from a young age, so I tried to really understand how they felt. I could never understand. I could never understand exactly how they felt, but I can listen to their stories, and I can do my best to hear the pain or the happiness in their voice and put myself in that position and walk in their shoes and understand why they talk like that, why they sound like that, why they believe what they do, why they went through things the way they went through when they were old enough to think for themselves. And then apply that to a character that might be in similar shoes.
Yeah.
Reality is the most powerful story.
Very true. Absolutely very true. Gosh, there you go, everybody. If you have questions, and
we can talk for hours about this,
and I'm trying to be conscious of your time here, and I thank you for going in depth as you have been, because it's so helpful to people out there.
Yeah. Interest, it will never be work if you're having fun, if you're interested.
Absolutely.
You just have to find which part of this interests you the most and focus on that, because it will lead you to everything else. I promise you. It's all a web. You got to understand one thing, and it might be boring, but if you look at it from the part that you found interesting and find out how those two relate, then you'll be interested in that thing, because you have to understand that to find out how they relate.
That's how I got into producing.
It's like
'Cause,
Yeah, it's like looking at different Wikipedia articles or putting on different hats. Exactly.
Yeah.
Doing different jobs to figure out how one helps the
Yeah,
other.
yeah, very, very true. Gosh, that's so good. And so let's talk about a little bit of because there is another creature element to this, but it's one of my
Sure.
favorites as well.
Yeah.
Is Attack on Titan here, and I know, or I assume, or I read this, or I heard this. You're also doing the voices for the Jaw Titan as well as you are doing the voice lines for Porco. Correct?
Correct. Yes. And I will say, spoilers. Spoiler warning for Attack on Titan, the final season, part 2,
Yes.
right here. I am no longer the Jaw Titan. Galliard is dead. Eaten by Falco, who is played by Bryson Bogus. He is the new Jaw Titan. But my time as Porco and the Jaw Titan was irreplaceable for me because it was even a new place that I hadn't explored before as a character.
Yeah, that's one of those roles where I watched all of Attack on Titan in sub first, and then we rewatched in dub because I was just too impatient because I love the series so much to wait for the dub to come out.
I do the same thing.
And
Yeah.
when I saw your performance, it was so good, and you bring so much life to that character. He's such a like. I found that in your dub, he's even more like sympathetic as a character. Obviously, there's like a morality thing between Attack on Titan, and you wind up finding yourself feeling for different characters again, fighting for different things. And I really
it explores the psyche.
It does
in a very uncomfortable way.
So you were a fan of Attack on Titan before you got involved on the show?
Of course, since high school.
Was that an absolute trip to find out you were going to be in that series?
It was. I didn't expect it because it's not usually the part I get, right? Even though he's a brat, even though he's a cynical type of hole, he's still fighting for a good side. It's funny that Attack on Titan plays a lot with morality and blurs the line between who's good and who's bad. But he wasn't a villain. He was just sort of a soldier.
Yeah. As what's his name? Bertolt and Reina,
yes.
They have that same kind of experience where you see them. If you really kind of
boys,
yeah.
Boys just launched into war. Probably wouldn't have been their first choice, but it was the hand they were
dealt. It's such a great series, and I gosh, it's one of my favorites. It's
up there for
it
me
is
too.
It's one of those series I think that have revolutionized anime in a way, and it's brought it to the masses in a way that when we look back at a series like this 20 years from now, it's going to be compared to the impacts that shows like Dragon Ball Z or the Big Three have had on anime, and it's really profound. It's so good. It's so good.
It's fantastic.
And what in terms of being a part of those series, do you find that the experiences that you're having as a voice actor and have grown from being a part of something so big, or does that not manifest in terms of a career? It's more of a convention way of things, or do you find that working on these high-profile things have changed the opportunities that you get moving forward?
They can. I feel as though every job I have is an opportunity to grow. You learn something new from every role, or at least you try to. With Attack on Titan, sure, it was big, and it has definitely helped convention stuff, but for me, it was big because I tried to put how big the show was aside and focus on the story. And it's so beloved because it's such a conflictual story, and it has so many layers to it. And I fully tried to consider every aspect of it because this is such an it's a familiar world, but it's an unfamiliar world to humanity here in the real world, or here in this dimension anyhow. For Porco, it was really the first time that, I don't know, it was a first for me, in that beforehand I would always be some kind of menacing type of I have it all planned out type of character, but this guy was just following orders. Sure, he had his own ideas, and most of them might have conflicted with the orders he was following, but at the end of the day, he was just a soldier. And the prejudices that he had, exploring them, why he had them, was a part of his character. He hated the Islanders because he was taught to hate the Islanders. So learning with him why he hated the Islanders and why he was even fighting this war at the same time was a learning experience for me into the morality of fighting war at all, of who's the good guy and the bad guy. And it's a huge universe, that show. So learning about just how small I was in it, I sort of got where he was coming from, just minding his business. Even if he had his complaints, he never really grasped for power or anything. He just sort of wanted to find out who was the better man between him and Rhina, and why he wasn't chosen at first to be the Jaw Titan, and why his brother had to die, and why everybody he loved had to die. There was a lot to it, and it can only come from something that complex, where so many of the elements that I would have had to make for myself are laid out in front of me already. This was the final season. So already I had a lot of the why answers just as an outsider. I just had to, the challenge was figuring out the whys as someone who was experiencing them in real time.
So, that's so good. And that's all such a fantastic way of looking at it. And I kind of, in the middle there, you were talking about, working with these characters that are menacing or evil, villain, however you want to phrase them, for lack of a better term. I remember you tweeting one time.
Visionaries. I would call them visionaries, not because of the grandioseness of the term given by society now, but because they had their own visions of how the world should be. Porco's vision was much smaller. He just wanted to kill what was in front of him and find out why. He didn't want to change why. He just wanted to find out why.
I remember you tweeting that you wanted to play more like heroes or the traditional good guys one time. I remember you seeing that, and then I remember seeing you get cast that in Sasaki and Miyano, and I was so happy to see you playing a role of this kind of older brother-esque good guy looking out for the
He's a trash goblin. He loves to tease.
But it doesn't come from a place of malintent, though. He underneath it's good intentioned, I feel like.
Usually the worlds I play in, Paul, just have these stakes that are just so high, and everything is just so bleak. In here, his biggest problem was, am I gay? And I was so relieved to have a story like that, a lighthearted story to play in. So relieved, in fact, that I just, with Sasaki, I started to figure out more about myself, more about, I wanted to put as much of myself as I could into Sasaki, how he teases Miyano and why he says things the way he does. And more importantly, with everything I do, Paul, I just want to challenge the status quo. I think that once people are complacent with an acting style, then they've already lost their way as an actor. I think we should keep evolving. I think we should keep trying new characters and new acting styles and not just be stuck in one thing. I think that that's where we go to die as an actor.
Yeah, the eternal pursuit for learning about yourself and pushing yourself to the limits. I think that's what the endless curiosity, I think, is the only thing that will create inspiring performances, or they become
you got to try
bland
everything.
and played out. Yeah.
Curiosity should fuel every career, in my opinion. Finding out what else can I do. I know I can do this well, and maybe it can pay the bills in the meantime, but what else can I do?
Couldn't have said it better. I want to move to our audience questions here. Keith, we have two. We have two here for Kellen. One is a video, and one is a written that we've picked. Thank you all who sent in questions. We look through all of them. We can't play all of them, obviously, but we appreciate you do, and you can send them in to info@pointsofexperiencepodcast.com. So let's go here. Who do we have our first question from today, Keith?
Hey there, Mr. Goff. I am making this video because I have a question. My name is Evan, nor Nick's Moon Reads, and I'm the kid who performed the card trick for you at Huntsville Expo at the Von Braun Center. And my question is about getting my voice out there. I've created a voice reel, and I need some advice on what are some ways to get my voice even further out there. So what would you say would be the best choices to make to try to get my voice out there?
By voice out there, I don't want to assume for you, Nix, but I'm going to assume that you mean voice in front of more people who make the decisions casting-wise. And I would say, you made a voice reel, great. Just keep practicing, and only you can really keep putting yourself out there. You gotta take classes with the people who are working, because then they'll tell someone who will tell someone who might be a casting director. This is all a lot of hypotheticals. No one actor's journey is the same. Everybody has their break in a different way. But you just, any way you can, you got to keep trying. Make stuff on YouTube. I'm sure you do. You do stuff like Paul is doing. Do a podcast. Keep trying out for any casting call you can find. Because even if you don't get cast, or even if you don't want the project, someone else heard you. And then we as humans are evolutionarily inclined to gossip, because that's how we learn. We spread information. We read the newspapers, or we watch news, or we look at Twitter. So people are going to talk about you if you keep confidently putting yourself out there. But to get your voice out there, really, it's just a matter of, yeah, I think I've said it already. Just trying everything you can in front of everyone you can. Start getting a sense of what's going to be worth your time or not. Maybe go against your gut sometimes. Maybe try out for that thing you don't think you'd be right for, because the biggest impact is made by the most unexpected surprises.
And just to add to that, I think, like he was saying, YouTube, TikTok is a great place where people are putting their voice out there, and that might be something for you. Or what I did when I was doing a lot of stuff on camera and in TV and film in New York City, I would audition for the Columbia MFA films, and I did so many Columbia student films, and just being able to work and create with other people, because those people who are making these projects at like a lower tier, as if you want to call it that, not a huge budget, they are hoping to work at the higher level soon too, and they remember the people that worked on the things when they started. So
when they
it's a great place to start networking and making friends and collaborating with people. So just try and find what you can.
Just keep making friends. Keep making friends, because the more friends you make and the more people you wow, the more of them are going to talk about you and spread the word of your
Exactly.
voice.
All right, Keith, let's pull up our next question. Thank you so much for that. Nix was his name?
Thank you, Nix.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you so much
Nix.
for that question. We have a written question in here for you, Kellen.
Correct. So this is from Jessica McCartney.
Okay.
It's a statement and then a question. It starts with, they are 24 years old and they live in South Carolina. They are on the spectrum, an introvert and a fangirl. You are one of the most charming, kind, silliest people I have ever seen. They wish more people were like you, but then again, the world breeds different people for a different reason. The question they have...
I'm glad more people aren't like me. I would never work.
The question they have for you is, if you had any other job opportunity in life and you weren't a voice actor, what would that occupation be and why?
You know what's funny? It has nothing to do with entertainment. I would want to work on a ship.
Ooh.
I have always felt the call of the sea. I was born near a sea. I grew up near a sea. I grew up near Catalina, in San Pedro. And I don't know, just something about a simple life on a mass all my own where I know everybody and we all work hard to do whatever we're going to do on that ship. I don't know. It just it feels a lot. It feels like a new experience. You know, it feels like something so foreign to me, always having been from this town where I never really get the chance to make a community with anybody. It's always on to the next team, you know? And I'll keep friends along the way, but I don't know. It's not fully explainable for me. I would just love to. I would read books about. I forget what the name of the book was, but it was this one where this girl had booked. Her parents had booked passage for her on this pirate ship, and it wasn't. You know, it wasn't fully like a pirate ship. Like, I don't think they stole from anybody. It was just men of the sea. And this was back in maybe the 1800s. So things have obviously changed since then. But the longer she was out there, the more she didn't want to be stuck in her room and her dresses anymore because she had lived this aristocratic lifestyle. And she learned how to, like, climb up a mast and unhook sails and you know, sweep the bow. I don't know, do all the different things you do on a ship. And she learned a different way of life. And I think it was just that curiosity that made that sound so appealing to me, because she ended up taking the life of the sea over her fancy life in the end.
I always wanted to build a voice booth on a boat and travel the Caribbean. That's like my dream.
That'd be fun.
Like work
That'd
from
be fun.
boat instead of work from boat.
I don't know if the waves would allow for a good background sound.
Triple
I think
wallet.
It has to be pretty stationary.
Yeah. triple pane wallet. Yeah,
work.
I'll be the first person to do it.
Yeah.
If
I don't want to find out what happens when I get my Neumann wet.
no. There's no moisture. Yeah. So Kellen, lastly here, you've been such a fantastic guest. I cannot thank you enough. You are so amazing at what you do on the screens, as well as your education here that you've provided to all of our listeners. It is so invaluable. Yeah, invaluable. That's the right word.
Invaluable.
What are some stuff coming up? I watch Sasaki and Miyano. That's out now on Funimation Crunchyroll.
All out.
Is there anything else? I know you're also in
Yep.
Vampire in the Garden with me. I didn't know that, but I saw you're also in that.
Yep.
Is there anything else people should look out for or look for you in?
We just released the Evil Dead game. It's an official game for that series with a bunch of people that have come back, and I was I got to be the voice of the demon Elagos for it. which uses electricity in this game, and it was a lot of fun, and I really hope I did justice to the original actor and stuff. And then coming up, you know about NDAs, you know what but the one I'm allowed to talk about is God of War Ragnarok. I get to be quite a few enemies in that, and maybe even some characters that give quests. So yeah, look out for that on the horizon there. That's going to be a lot of fun.
I will. Kellen, this has been an absolute pleasure. I hope to meet you in person someday, whether in LA or at a con or something. We will.
It's inevitable.
It is. I mean, the town is so small. I'll probably run into you at a coffee shop or something.
Tiny town, probably the one that everybody frequents.
Exactly.
Yep.
Well, Kellen, thank you so much. Everybody, from your seats at home or in your car, safely give a round of applause for Kellen. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I truly could have talked forever with Kellen. His depth and knowledge of his characters, his excitement around creating, it's electric, and it rubs off on you. I really just felt you all saw it. I was grinning from ear to ear. He is so talented. Again, we touched upon it on this video, but he's got a video where he breaks down his performances of Fiddlesticks, and I highly recommend you checking that out. Where he just talks about what it takes to create creature voices. And D. Bradley Baker, one of the finest in the business there is. I believe he does the hamster for Hammond and Overwatch, amongst every other creature you can imagine. Another master at the craft. And his website, iwanttobeavoiceactor.com, is one of the number one resources I reference to anybody looking to pursue a career in voice acting. Kellen truly, he brings out parts of characters that I wouldn't think were possible on paper. A lot of the things going forward in my career that I've auditioned for, I see he gets. And I see why they pick him, and that's why when I was talking about the bell thing, I was so surprised that I wound up getting it, because he's so good and right for these parts. But it just goes to show you there's room for everybody. Don't feel discouraged just because there are people as talented as he is out there. But that's also the reality. You're playing in the major leagues. People like Kellen, there's all different people like that who are insanely good at X, Y, and Z about what they do. And that's why you need to find what it is you are great at and what you bring to the table, because it sounds so overplayed, but you are enough, and there's something about you that's unique and people are going to be interested in. That's what I needed to believe in when I started doing things professionally too, because it can get really daunting and scary if you don't, allow yourself the imagination of thinking, hey, I could work alongside these people too. So I'm just so excited we got to have that chat. And there's a reason why he is an award-nominated actor for his performance in Fiddlesticks. It is just that good. Check out the video of the voice lines of Fiddlesticks that we were playing in full. It will blow your mind. It'll blow your mind! Again, thank you for your questions. info@pointsofexperiencepodcast.com if you want to send one in yourself and be featured on the show. Thank you to everybody who has done so this far. Make sure you follow us on all social medias, POX Podcast or Points of Experience on TikTok. And make sure you watch us on YouTube, youtube.com/Paul Castro Jr. Thank you guys for being a part of this. Again, if you would like to enter to win one of our microphones, replay that video from earlier, and we'll be giving more of these away and doing more giveaways to come. So make sure you're following us on all social medias. We'll have more opportunities to give more things back to you all, the community who make all of this worthwhile and possible. And it's really my pleasure to inform all of you out there. So thank you once again. Another episode of Points of Experience. Kellen Goff, what a talent.